Can you be my dad for Christmas? The little girl asked a single dad, and what he did changed everything. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Ellie Garrett sat in the corner booth at Riverside Cafe on December 18th, doing her math homework while her mom Hannah worked the Saturday morning shift. And she was trying really hard not to cry because yesterday at school, her teacher had announced the annual Breakfast with Dads event happening in 2 days. And every single kid in her third grade class had gotten excited except her. She'd sat there frozen while her best friend Emma talked about how her dad was taking off work to come. And when Mrs. Patterson asked, "Ellie, will your father be attending?" The whole class had gone quiet because everyone knew Ellie didn't have a dad. Hadn't had one since she was 2 years old, when he decided being a father was too hard and just disappeared. Here's the thing about being 8 years old and watching your mom work 60 hours a week as a waitress just to keep a roof over your head. You learn pretty quick that asking for things like Christmas presents or new clothes or a dad to come to school events isn't fair because your mom's already doing everything she possibly can. Ellie had told Mrs. Patterson, "No, ma'am, my dad can't come," in this quiet voice that made her feel small and invisible, and she'd spent the rest of the day pretending she didn't care. While inside, she felt like her chest was caving in. Now she was at the cafe watching families come in for Saturday breakfast. All these kids with their dads ordering pancakes and laughing, and Ellie kept her head down over her homework trying to be invisible. At 9:30, the door chimed, and Josh Collins walked in with his 9-year-old son Caleb like they did every single Saturday. And Ellie looked up because she'd been watching them for weeks now, watching the way Josh listened when Caleb talked, the way he laughed at his son's jokes, the way he was patient even when Caleb spilled syrup or talked with his mouth full. Josh and Caleb slid into their usual booth 3 down from Ellie's, and Hannah came over with coffee already poured because she knew their order by heart. "Morning, Josh." "Morning, Caleb, the usual?" And Josh smiled at her with this warm, genuine smile. "You know us too well, Hannah. Yes, please. And how are you today?" Hannah looked tired like she always did, but she smiled back. "Living the dream, your pancakes will be right up." Ellie watched this interaction like she watched every week, saw the way Josh treated her mom with respect, saw the way he always left a $20 tip, even though their bill was never more than 15. Caleb was telling Josh about something that happened at school and dropped his fork, and Josh didn't get mad, just picked it up and said, "No worries, buddy, happens to everyone. Let me grab you a clean one," and walked to the counter himself instead of bothering Hannah, who was slammed with tables. Ellie watched him do this small, kind thing, and something inside her just broke open, because this man was so nice and so patient, and she wanted that so badly it physically hurt. Wanted someone to pick up her fork and say no worries. Wanted someone to come to breakfast with dads. Wanted someone to be her person. She made a decision that was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done, closed her math book, slid out of her booth, and walked straight to Josh and Caleb's table on legs that felt like they might give out. "Excuse me, can I ask you something really important?" And her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. And Josh looked up with those kind eyes and said, "Sure, sweetie, what's up?" Caleb stopped talking mid-sentence and stared at this random girl interrupting their breakfast. Ellie's whole speech came out in one terrified rush. "Can you be my dad for Christmas? Just for Christmas. I don't mean forever, but all the kids at school have dads, and there's this breakfast thing in 2 days, and I can't go because I don't have a dad. And my mom works here, and she's really nice, but she can't be a dad too. And you seem really nice to your son. And I just want a dad for Christmas, please." She was crying by the end, tears streaming down her face. And the cafe had gone quiet because people at nearby tables had heard this 8-year-old ask a complete stranger to be her father. From across the cafe, Hannah's voice cut through sharp and mortified, "Ellie!" And Ellie turned to see her mom dropping a tray of dirty dishes, face bright red, rushing over. Hannah grabbed Ellie's arm, not rough, but firm. "I'm so sorry, sir. She shouldn't have bothered you, Ellie." "What are you doing? You can't just ask strangers to be your dad." "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed." And she was pulling Ellie away, but Josh stood up fast. "Wait, it's okay, really. She didn't bother me." Hannah stopped but kept her hand on Ellie's shoulder. "No, it's not okay. She knows better than this. I'm really sorry. We'll leave you alone. And she was doing that thing she always did, apologizing for existing, making herself small. Josh saw the exhaustion in her face, saw Ellie's tears, saw the desperation of two people barely holding it together, and his voice came out gentle. What's the breakfast thing she mentioned? Hannah's face got even redder. It's nothing. A school event. Breakfast with dads Friday morning. All the kids bring their fathers. Ellie doesn't have one. Her dad left when she was 2. She shouldn't have asked you this. I could take her if you're okay with it. Josh said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. And Hannah just stared at him like he'd started speaking a different language. What? No, absolutely not. I can't ask you to do that. And Josh smiled. You didn't ask, she did. And I'm saying yes. It's just a pancake breakfast, right? I can handle that. Hannah was shaking her head. You don't understand. You don't know us. You can't just volunteer to be someone's dad because a kid asked you in a cafe. But her voice was breaking because part of her desperately wanted to say yes. My wife died 3 years ago, Josh said quietly. Caleb grew up without a mom. I know what it's like to be the kid who's different, who doesn't have what everyone else has. And if I can help Ellie not feel that way for one morning, I'd like to. And Hannah's eyes filled with tears. Caleb, who'd been watching this whole thing unfold, said in his 9-year-old voice, Dad's really good at pancake breakfast. He won't embarrass her. And Ellie let out this laugh that was half sob. Hannah looked at her daughter's hopeful, tear-stained face and felt her resistance crumbling. Just the breakfast, that's it, nothing else. And Josh nodded. Just the breakfast, I promise. Ellie threw her arms around Josh's waist before anyone could stop her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Josh awkwardly patted her back, looking at Hannah for permission. And Hannah was crying now, too, wiping her eyes with her apron. 2 days later, on December 20th, Josh picked up Ellie from the cafe at 7 in the morning. And Hannah handed her daughter over to this man she barely knew, feeling like the world's worst mother and the most grateful person alive at the same time. Caleb had come too because Josh said, backup is always good, and Ellie held Caleb's hand walking into her school like she'd found her people. The elementary school gym was packed with dads and kids, and when Ellie's friend Emma asked, I thought you didn't have a dad, Ellie said with more confidence than she felt, This is Mr. Josh. He's my dad for Christmas. Josh made pancake shapes with her, played the silly relay race games, sat through the principal's speech about father figures, and was fully present in a way that made Ellie's heart feel too big for her chest. Her teacher approached during cleanup. You must be Ellie's father. She talks about you. And Josh carefully corrected, I'm a family friend, helping out for the day. But the teacher smiled like she knew something he didn't. However it started, she's happy. That's what matters most. After the breakfast, Josh brought Ellie back to Riverside Cafe where Hannah was on her break, and Ellie couldn't stop talking. Mama, he made pancakes shaped like rabbits, and we won the relay race, and everyone said he was the nicest dad there. Hannah looked at Josh with gratitude so overwhelming she couldn't speak, just mouthed thank you, and Josh sat down in the booth across from her. She's an amazing kid. You're doing an incredible job raising her. Hannah's laugh came out bitter. I'm working 2 jobs and can't afford Christmas presents. I'm barely surviving. Definitely not incredible. They talked for an hour while the kids colored on placemats, and it was the first real conversation they'd had beyond coffee orders and weather small talk. Hannah opening up about raising Ellie alone, and Josh sharing about losing his wife and solo parenting Caleb. When they finally had to leave, Caleb said, Can Ellie come cut down a Christmas tree with us this weekend? And before Hannah could say no, Ellie's face lit up so bright Hannah couldn't bring herself to refuse. And Josh said, It's just a tree. No big deal. We're going anyway. And Hannah heard herself saying yes, even though her brain was screaming, This is too much, too fast. But watching Ellie wave goodbye to Josh and Caleb with the biggest smile Hannah had seen in months, she thought maybe sometimes too much too fast was exactly what they needed. Maybe sometimes a stranger saying yes to an impossible question was the beginning of everything changing. And maybe she was allowed to accept help without feeling like she was failing. Christmas came and went in this weird, wonderful blur of tree decorating and gift exchanges that Hannah kept trying to refuse, until Josh reminded her that Ellie had asked him to be her dad for Christmas, and Christmas wasn't over yet. And on December 26th, Hannah woke up feeling terrified because she'd almost kissed Josh on Christmas Eve in his kitchen and then panicked and left. And now she was avoiding Riverside Cafe completely by picking up extra shifts at her second job across town. Ellie kept asking, "Why don't we see Mr. Josh and Caleb anymore? Did I do something wrong?" And Hannah's heart broke every time because no, her daughter hadn't done anything wrong. Hannah was just scared out of her mind that she was falling for a man who'd shown up when they needed him, and what happened when he realized they were too much work. Meanwhile, Josh was going to Riverside Cafe every single morning, hoping to catch Hannah's shift, but she was never there. And he'd sit in their usual booth, drinking coffee he didn't want, while Caleb asked, "Dad, where's Ellie? I miss her." And Josh had to admit, "I think I scared her mom away, buddy. I told her I liked her, and now she's avoiding me." Caleb looked at his father with that wise, beyond his years expression and said, "That's dumb. Why would telling someone you like them make them run away?" And Josh laughed sadly. Sometimes adults are scared of good things, scared of getting hurt again. New Year's Eve hit, and Josh was putting Caleb to bed at 10:30 when his son said, "Dad, I can't sleep. Can we go get hot chocolate?" And Josh knew exactly what Caleb was doing. Knew his kid had figured out Hannah worked late shifts on holidays for the extra pay, and he grabbed his keys without arguing, because yeah, he needed to see her too. They walked into Riverside Cafe at 11 at night, and Hannah looked up from wiping down tables, and her face did this thing, where surprise and happiness and fear all crashed together. "What are you doing here?" And Josh's answer came out honest and raw. "Caleb wanted hot chocolate, and I wanted to see you." Hannah's walls went up immediately. "Josh, I can't do this. I can't let you keep helping us and being nice and making Ellie love you, because what happens when you wake up and realize we're too much trouble?" Josh walked closer, voice dropping low. "What if you're not trouble at all? What if you're exactly what we've been missing? What if I'm falling in love with you, and that terrifies me too, but I'm doing it anyway?" Hannah was crying now, ugly tears while holding a dirty dish rag. "I can't afford to need you. I can't afford to let Ellie get more attached. You're successful and put together, and we're just barely surviving." The cafe was empty except for them and the kids asleep in a booth, and Josh took the dish rag from her hands. "Let me help you close up." And they worked side by side in silence, wiping tables and stacking chairs until the clock struck midnight, and suddenly it was a new year. Josh turned to Hannah in the middle of the empty cafe and said, "Can I tell you something? Ellie asking me to be her dad was the best thing that happened to me all year. She reminded me what family can look like, what love can be." And Hannah was shaking her head. "She shouldn't have put you in that position, shouldn't have asked a stranger for something so big." But Josh cut her off. "She gave me a gift. She was brave enough to ask for what she needed. And I'm trying to be brave enough to tell you I want this, want you, want all of us together." Hannah kissed him before she could talk herself out of it, kissed him like she'd been wanting to since Christmas Eve, and when they pulled apart, she whispered, "I'm so scared." And Josh whispered back, "Me too. Let's be scared together." And it felt like permission to try. 3 months flew by in this beautiful pattern of Saturday morning cafe breakfasts and Wednesday evening dinners, and slowly building something real. And they'd sit in their booth at Riverside Cafe having conversations over coffee that went deeper every time. Hannah talking about her ex leaving and raising Ellie alone. Josh sharing about Amanda's death and learning to parent through grief. Finding they understood each other in ways nobody else ever had. The cafe owner, Mrs. Chen, would watch them from behind the counter and smile. Told Hannah one day, "You two are good together. You're building something solid." And Hannah felt herself believing it might be true. Ellie and Caleb had their own booth where they'd do homework and make plans. And one Saturday in March, Ellie asked Caleb, "Do you think our parents are going to get married?" And Caleb grinned, "I hope so. You're already like my sister anyway." And Ellie's whole face lit up. "Really? You want me as your sister?" And Caleb said, like it was obvious, "Yeah, you're cool, and my dad smiles all the time now. He used to be sad a lot." Everything came crashing down in April when Hannah got the eviction notice. 30 days to vacate because she was 2 months behind on rent, and the landlord was done waiting, and she tried to hide it from Josh. But Ellie told Caleb, and Caleb told his dad because kids don't understand adult pride. Josh found Hannah after her shift in the Riverside Cafe parking lot. "Why didn't you tell me you're being evicted?" And Hannah's defenses shot up. "Because it's not your problem, I'll figure it out." But Josh wasn't having it. "We're together. Your problems are my problems. Move in with me. I have 3 bedrooms and you can pay me rent. Whatever you can afford." Hannah looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "That's way too fast. We've been dating 4 months." But Josh's voice stayed steady. "Or it's practical. Ellie needs stability. You need help. I have space. I'm offering." Hannah went home and asked Ellie, "Mr. Josh invited us to move in with him and Caleb. What do you think?" And Ellie literally jumped up and down. "Yes, then Caleb can be my real brother, and we can have family dinners every night." And Hannah realized through her daughter's excitement that maybe fast wasn't always bad. Maybe sometimes fast was just right. They moved in during May, and it was chaos and beautiful and terrifying all at once. Ellie and Caleb choosing to share a room, even though there were plenty of bedrooms. The 4 of them figuring out morning routines and whose turn it was to make dinner and how to be a family. 6 months passed in this comfortable rhythm, and they still went to Riverside Cafe every Saturday morning because it was their place, where everything started. And Mrs. Chen would bring them free muffins and say, "When's the wedding?" Until it became a running joke, except it wasn't really a joke anymore. December 18th rolled around again, exactly 1 year since Ellie had asked her impossible question, and Josh suggested they go to the cafe to mark the anniversary. They sat in the same booth where Ellie had approached him 12 months ago, all 4 of them squeezed in. And Ellie said, "It's been a whole year since I asked you to be my dad." And Josh smiled. "Best question anyone ever asked me." And Ellie grinned. "I only asked for Christmas, but you stayed forever." Josh pulled a small box from his pocket, and Hannah's breath caught, and he got down on one knee right there in the booth, while Mrs. Chen and the other customers started noticing. "Hannah Garrett, your daughter asked me to be her dad for Christmas. I'm asking you to let me be her dad forever. And your husband, will you marry me?" Hannah was crying and nodding before he even finished. "Yes, God, yes, absolutely yes." And the entire cafe erupted in applause. Mrs. Chen came running with a cake she'd apparently had ready. "I knew it. I knew from the first day you'd end up here." And Ellie and Caleb were cheering and jumping around, and Josh slid the ring on Hannah's finger and kissed her while their kids made gagging noises, and everyone laughed. That night after the kids went to bed, Hannah and Josh sat on the couch in their house, their actual shared house. And Hannah said, "A year ago, I was a single mom working 2 jobs, barely surviving, and my daughter asked a stranger to be her dad." And Josh finished, "And that stranger said yes and got a whole family. Best decision I ever made." Wedding planning took over their lives for the next 3 months, and Ellie was more excited than anyone, constantly asking about bridesmaid dresses and cake flavors and whether she could invite her entire third-grade class. And one night in January, she came into the living room where Josh was grading papers and asked in this quiet voice, "After you marry my mom, does that make you my real dad?" Josh set down his red pen and pulled her onto the couch beside him. "Ellie, I'm already your real dad. The wedding just makes it official on paper. I've been your dad since the day you asked me to be." Ellie twisted her hands together, looking nervous. "Can I call you Dad instead of Mr. Josh now? I've wanted to, but I didn't know if I was allowed." And Josh felt his throat close up completely. "I've been waiting for you to ask. I would love that more than anything." Ellie tried it out soft and uncertain. "Dad?" And Josh's voice came out thick with tears. "Yeah, baby?" And Ellie threw her arms around his neck. "I love you, Dad." And Josh held her tight. "I love you too, Ellie, so much." They got married in March in the most perfect way possible, rented out Riverside Cafe for the whole evening, because that's where their story started, and it felt right to make it official in the same place. Mrs. Chen decorated with lights and flowers and cried through the whole ceremony, and Ellie and Caleb walked both parents down the aisle together because they were already a family, and this was just making it legal. Josh's vows destroyed everyone. "Hannah, your daughter asked me to be her dad for Christmas. You're giving me the gift of being her dad for life and your husband. Thank you for trusting me with both of you. And Hannah could barely get through hers. You showed up when we had nothing. You loved Ellie when you didn't have to. You chose us every single day, and I choose you forever. Ellie did a reading she'd written herself about how families are people who choose each other, and there wasn't a dry eye in the entire cafe. And Mrs. Chen officiated because she'd gotten ordained online specifically for this wedding. The reception was dancing between tables and cake cutting and toasts that made everyone laugh and cry. And when Josh and Hannah had their first dance, Ellie and Caleb cut in halfway through demanding a family dance. And all four of them swayed together while camera flashes went off and Mrs. Chen sobbed behind the counter. 2 months after the wedding, Josh started the legal adoption process, and the lawyer explained that Ellie's biological father would need to terminate his parental rights. And Hannah said with complete certainty, he hasn't seen her in 7 years. He won't fight it. They tracked him down through his last known address, and he signed the papers without even asking how Ellie was doing. Just scribbled his name and mailed them back like he was signing away a car lease instead of his daughter. The court date got set for 6 months out, and they settled in to wait, doing home visits and interviews and mountains of paperwork. The social worker asked Ellie during her interview, "Do you want Mr. Collins to be your legal father?" And Ellie, who was 9 now, said with total confidence, "He's already my dad. This just makes it so nobody can ever take him away from me." And the social worker had to pause the interview because she was crying too hard to write notes. 6 months crawled by, and finally in October, they had their courthouse ceremony, the judge asking, "Ellie Garrett, do you understand that Josh Collins will legally be your father?" And Ellie stood up tall. "Yes, ma'am, and I'll be Ellie Collins like my dad and my brother." The judge granted the adoption right there, signed the papers that changed Ellie's name officially to Ellie Rose Collins. And when she handed them the certificate, the whole family cried. Caleb saying, "Now you're officially my sister," and Ellie laughing, "I always was. This just proves it to everyone else." That night they celebrated at Riverside Cafe naturally, and Mrs. Chen brought out a cake that said the Collins family with all four names. And other customers kept coming over to congratulate them because word had spread about the little girl who'd asked a stranger to be her dad, and now it was legal and permanent. 2 years passed in this beautiful, normal chaos of school events and family dinners and movie nights. And every single December 18th, they went back to Riverside Cafe to sit in the booth. The one where Ellie had approached Josh 3 years ago, and the cafe had put up a small plaque that read, "Where the Collins family began, December 18th. This particular year, Ellie brought her best friend Maya from 5th grade, and Maya asked, "Why do you guys come here every year on the same day?" And Ellie told the whole story with pride about being 8 and desperate and asking a stranger to be her dad. And Maya's eyes went huge. "That's the coolest story I've ever heard. You're so brave." On December 20th, that same year, Hannah had news, asked Josh to meet her at the cafe during her break. And when he slid into the booth across from her, she was grinning and crying at the same time. "I'm pregnant," she said it fast, like ripping off a Band-Aid. "Surprise?" And Josh just stared at her for 5 full seconds before his face broke into the biggest smile. "Really? We're having a baby?" Hannah nodded and Josh came around the booth and kissed her, while Mrs. Chen shrieked from behind the counter, "A baby! The Collins family is growing." Ellie and Caleb lost their minds when they found out, both immediately arguing about whether it would be a brother or sister and whose room the baby would eventually move into. And when baby Lucas James Collins arrived the following August, both kids were absolutely obsessed. Ellie at 12 held her baby brother and said, "He's so lucky he gets to have a dad from the very beginning." And Josh kissed her forehead. "You've had a dad from the beginning too. I've been your dad since you were 8. That's your beginning with me." And Ellie thought about it. "I guess you're right. It feels like you've always been here." 5 years later, Ellie was 16 and writing her college application essay about a moment that changed her life. And she wrote the entire story of asking a stranger in a cafe to be her dad for Christmas. How he said yes. How that yes turned into a family. Her teacher asked permission to share it, and the essay went viral with 8 million views. Comments flooding in about how beautiful and brave it was, and local news showed up at Riverside Cafe to interview the family. They filmed them sitting in the booth, the one with the plaque. And Ellie told the camera, I was 8 and desperate, and I saw a kind man being a good dad. So I asked if he could be mine. He said yes, and that's how families are built. 10 years after that first question, Ellie was 18 and packing for college, and the whole family had breakfast at Riverside Cafe one last time before she left. Now 5 of them squeezed into the booth with 5-year-old Lucas on Josh's lap. Ellie looked around at her family. 10 years ago, I sat right here and asked you to be my dad. And Josh smiled with tears in his eyes. 10 years ago, I said yes and got the daughter I didn't know I needed. And Hannah added, and I got the partner who showed up exactly when we needed him. Caleb, who was 19 now and home from his first year of college, said, and I got the best sister and the little brother who never stops talking. And Lucas protested, I don't talk that much, making everyone laugh. That afternoon, helping Ellie pack her car, she found an old drawing from age 8, the one she'd made that first Christmas showing all 4 of them as a family before Josh and Hannah were even married, and she showed it to Josh. I drew this before you even proposed to Mom. I already knew we'd be a family, and Josh pulled her into a hug. Bravest thing I ever did was say yes to an 8-year-old in a cafe, and Ellie hugged back tight. Bravest thing I did was ask. Hannah joined them in the driveway, wrapped her arms around both of them. Bravest thing I did was let you two love each other. And they stood there, this family built on one impossible question asked by a desperate child to a stranger who chose to say yes, and it had turned into everything, turned into forever. Can you be my dad for Christmas? 7 words that built a family, Ellie Garrett asked because she was 8 and alone and didn't want to be the only kid without a father. And Josh Collins said yes because he saw a child who needed what he could give. And that yes changed 3 lives into 4, then 5. If asking for help feels impossible, if saying yes to hard things scares you, if you wonder whether one moment can reshape everything, this story is proof it can. Ellie asked for Christmas and got forever. Josh said yes to one breakfast and gained a family. Hannah let a stranger love her daughter and found her person. And Caleb got the sister who taught him that families grow when you're brave enough to let them. The Riverside Cafe still marks December 18th as the day the Collins family began, still serves pancakes to the family who formed there, still has that booth where an 8-year-old changed 4 lives with one question. Hit subscribe if this reminded you that bravery is asking for what you need, that saying yes changes absolutely everything, and that the family you build can be even stronger than the one you're born into. Thanks for being here with us.